Hey, what up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Golf Parfection podcast. I'm joined here with my co-host, Matt. Also, next guest on our podcast, Lulu. She was also in the previous one. And today we're going to talk about working in the golf industry. So, Matt, you have a lot of experience working in golf. Lulu, you bring a new perspective as well because you transitioned from collegiate golf and now working at golf courses as well. So I feel like this is a good opportunity to kind of hear your guys' insight between the both of you, what it's like to actually work in golf from all the various roles that you've held. So I guess, Lulu, we'll go with you first so you can introduce yourself. But for those who didn't listen to the last podcast, you can, say what you're currently doing and then how you kind of worked out to eventually being at TPC Stonebrae. So after collegiate golf, where did you go to, and then how'd you end up where you are today?
So, funny story, I actually still worked at TPC Stonebrae while I was in college. And so,
okay.
Yes, so that's kind of how I got my foot in the door there. So I started working as outside service, cart staff, at TPC Stonebrae when I was my sophomore summer, when I was at East Bay, and it's, they're next door. So it was kind of convenient. My little circle of my home, college, work, like just perfect, all within 20 minutes.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
it just is a breeze, and I love it. And so I worked there in cart staff for about 5 years until I graduated. Continued to work there like infrequently, and I needed to explore things outside of golf, so I took some internships the year after I graduated in graphic design, and it always, there's a thing where you think you're like, when I'm in a position here and I'm thinking about the golf course, then something's wrong here. Like I'm clearly not where I want to be. And so not to say I don't love design, but I still hold that very much to my heart, and it's still a love of mine, but not a passion. And so, I think that I wanted to pivot a little bit, and I got the opportunity to coach. And so that's kind of what I'm doing now. I'm coaching for a D2 team as well as studying for my master's. And so when I got the opportunity to coach, I was also pitched to kind of, think about doing instruction. And I was like, I've never thought of doing instruction, but at the same time, it was a side of golf that had very much interested me, because I was always curious to know, okay, well, if I've worked with coaches before, and I think I did have an experience with a coach that I didn't particularly like. It was actually not that great of an experience. And so I was like, what would I be able to do better if I was teaching somebody? And especially going from coaching to, I guess, like instructing, it's a little bit different. It's not the same. And so I started doing my instruction. I got an opportunity to do instruction at Las Positas.
All right. Yep.
Shout out
Played
Las
that
Positas.
track. Like that track.
And so Las Positas, and just did tons of lessons in the summer, especially when I started. It was right around the time, kind of mid-pandemic.
So it was starting to surge,
yeah,
right?
And so it was actually probably the most perfect time for me to do instruction, because it's so in demand. And so I got lucky. I just kind of got thrown into the fire and just really just learned from there, and doing the reps and everything, and just getting more clientele to and building that trust and that connection really kind of gained my confidence in my teaching, and developing a teaching style, and knowing the fundamentals, and even now, I'm still constantly learning. And that's what I love, is that now that I'm in the instructional side, it's like, wow, there's just so much to learn.
Sure.
And I feel like I've just scratched the surface, and I'm an open book, and I absolutely am excited to just keep doing it.
Got it.
And I was pivoting back to your question about TPC now being an assistant. And so, they were looking to have more female presence at the course, and
good on them,
which is great. And, I still kept in touch with my head professional out there, and, he pitched it to me, and I was like, well, what do you got for me? Like, you got to put up, I love doing lessons, and if I can do lessons out there, and also, I love the club. It's an amazing golf course. I feel lucky to have worked there and work there now. And, it's a great place to be. And so, that's what really drew me back there. And I'm definitely hoping to kind of invigorate the experience doing lessons out there, as well as, just coaching, and especially being with the kids in the summer. That's super big. So
awesome. So now you're going to be at TPC Stonebrae now.
So I'm currently at TPC Stonebrae as an assistant professional.
Okay. And then in addition, you're doing lessons, instruction still, or that's on the horizon?
So doing instruction. Yes.
Okay.
Doing instruction there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, follow her in there will be links for all the socials in the description below if you want to check out lessons. And do you focus on a certain demographic or mostly women or anyone?
I want to teach everyone. I think
Okay.
anyone can
All
do
right.
it. If I've taught 4-year-olds, I've taught 79-year-olds. Like
All right.
I love seeing the like different types of golf swings. Like the diversity of golf swings makes me so happy because it just shows that anything's possible in golf. Like, it's
Awesome.
great.
Okay. And so how to best take a lesson from you? Like, do you go through your socials, or like, how would I take a lesson from you? So let people know.
I think the best way is definitely socials. I'm always on socials.
Okay.
Email is great too, and I can pitch my email. I know at Stonebrae we do take outside lessons, and so that's something you can inquire about.
All right.
And so I'm definitely always looking for more clients. It builds my experience because of course I'm teaching my clients, but I learn from them as well. And
Sure.
so it's always a learning process, whether I be teaching or they be taking a lesson from me. And so I think best way is always email, and then even phone number and stuff like that. So
Perfect. Okay, awesome. So pivoting over to Matt now, you are obviously, if people have watching don't know, I take lessons from Matt, but like, let's talk about how you got to, and I know you've explained this a little bit before, but like how you got to your position right now, because you also had experience working at golf courses before, right?
I've spent the majority of my life working I went from assistant to first assistant to head professional to director of golf, and the higher up you go, the less you play golf. Right?
Okay.
It is, for a hot second, I lost the love of the game, and I got out probably about 8 or 9 years ago, and just took a break because, when you're the head professional, and you're writing the budget, and you're writing the budget for the kitchen staff, and you're making schedules, and you're telling the Andersons that they can't drive next to the second green for the 8th time this week, like it got a little old for me, and I needed to step away. And plus too, they always say if you want to make real money, don't get into the golf business, especially on the assistant level, because it just it's not the most high paying job out there unless you're teaching a lot of lessons, right? And it was good back prior to the recession. It was I was packed, given 6-7 lessons a day, taking on the head professional role, and it was wonderful. And then recession hit, and nobody wanted to take off lessons, and it was more so it got a little tough there for a while. I think with the opportunity when I was out of the golf business and I was able to make a little extra money, that we were able to open up the golf garage, I don't think I'd ever want to do anything but this. I love the idea of being able to teach, at a facility, at a golf course. That's nice, short game, putting, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But for like it makes it so much easier to teach with TrackMan.
Sure.
I mean, video never lies, data never lies. Right.
Right.
So that, and you're providing value, right? If I can say, look, in 10 minutes, I'm going to get this club to be, coming down where it's too steep, and I'm going to be able to get you more shallow. And for them to be able to see it, they go, oh, right. And we've talked about this before. What it feels like and what it looks like is two completely different things, right? So that from instruction side, I love what I do here. This is our own little space. And if anything, the golf garage will grow. That's kind of in the plan. That's the ultimate plan. But I ultimately would like a large, complex indoor putting area that has that where you see the lines and the green bends, and and I've got some people that we're talking to try to put that together, and when we're really excited about it. But it's also very scary. So we want to make sure people come.
You're kind of on the forefront of a new type of golf business. Yes. Honestly, like TrackMan screen taking lessons. There's no golf course anywhere.
I was the first. I remember when I reached out to TrackMan and said, "Here's my idea," and they go, "Man, we were waiting for somebody to do that in this area."
Mm-hmm.
Right?
There you go.
And I was the first. And now there's like 5 or 6.
Yeah,
right?
there's a bunch popping around,
which is great. Like there's enough for everybody.
A ton of people here.
And here transitioning to I do maybe 15% of people come in for practice, and everybody else, my lesson schedule is just booked.
Oh, I am
right?
aware
It's
that your
just-
lesson
It's
schedule
just, it's
is
just
busy.
booked.
I can't get on.
I got my wife saying, make sure that you take time to eat, because sometimes it's just back
Oh,
to back
boom,
to back
boom.
to back to
Yes. Oh my
back,
God,
right?
Yeah.
But it's now like when you come back to it, and I'm doing it my own way.
Right. It's
I don't
your business,
answer to
right?
anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's taking a percentage. Like, I'm able to do it my own way, and not have to, again, have anybody dictating anything I do. Right. I can
Sure.
teach whenever I want. I want mornings, evenings, be able to block out my time and saying, hey, we're going to Disneyland this weekend. I'm just gonna block off the schedule. To have that freedom is amazing. But to have the following, I think it took being open a year with just people coming in and practicing, and then a few people coming to lessons, to build this phenomenal, community that we have, right? And I think that's super cool. Now, the differences from working at a golf course, I don't get to run out and pop out and play 9 after work. Like, I think that's the downfall, right? I miss that, miss the smell of the grass. There's just something about it, right? Just the environment that you're in, you're part of that team, and working at a golf, it's all really dependent too on your management. Are they there to mentor you, or are you just there to work the hours, right? Because I've had some of both. I've had some head professionals that I worked under that were terrible, right? And I've had some that I still preach what they say to this day, because they made such an impact on how I developed as a golf pro, how I developed as a golf coach, just how to carry yourself, right?
For sure.
And that to me is important, But at the same time, we had so much fun, right? We had one of my favorite stories, and I don't think people are doing as much of this now, because it was a long time ago.
Okay.
So I was working, I'm not going to name the course, it was in Washington, 36-hole facility. And I was the first assistant there at the time, and all the pros, we'd all get together, right? We'd be like, okay, pick your cart kid, right? And I was like, I'd look at their shoes. I was like, which one's wearing those running sneakers out there?
Oh my gosh.
So there was 4 pros. We'd pick 4 cart kids, and we'd make them race, right? And you had to run.
Oh my God.
The facility had it's 36 holes, and the first holes both went in the same direction. So they had to run up one and run back. Right. And that's what we would do. Like, those are the sort of things that we would do, right?
Like the banter, the memory, the camaraderie.
And you're chipping in the pro shop, and you're just doing fun stuff. I think that's a little bit of what I miss about being in there. And as a head professional myself, not kind of kiboshing that, being like almost promoting it. Like, we're here to have a good time. We're working in the golf industry. Let's make it as fun as we can, and be as personable, and everything is about experience, right? You can walk into a golf course and somebody can just kind of ring you up and go on your way, but you want to provide some sort of experience for them. They're like, man, like I was a head pro at Dark Horse for quite some time, and it was like, okay, I went out to Dark Horse, had this great experience, right? And that's a part of it, Everybody wants to know the pro, and it's hard. I'm terrible at remembering names, so if I've ever called you big guy or fella at some point in time, chances are I forgot your name, right? So it's but what an experience, but it was. I enjoyed my time, but I wouldn't choose anything else from where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, I know you've worked your butt off to get to where you are now, and now you're teaching full time, which is a huge commitment, because you had something that was pretty steady, right? And like, you just took the leap of faith, and now we're helping build this awesome community. So I'm glad to hear that, and cool to hear your story from Edmonton. I know we talked about it in the first podcast about the origin story, but it's cool to hear that now, like, you're thriving and things are going great. So
it's pretty amazing. But from what Lulu was saying, it's about, you're always learning. You're always learning. I always say you can learn anything from anybody. Right? I don't care if you've been teaching a week or you've been teaching for 30 years. This person who's been teaching a week may say something, and I'm like, wow, I really identify the way that you explain that, and that would help me help somebody else.
Sure.
Right? Craig, who was on before, him and I are always going back and forth with each other, being like, hey, I love the way you said that, or hey, did you make that training aid yourself? Take a picture, send it to me. I love that. Right?
That's awesome.
So I'm gonna steal that. Right? But it's super cool. Again, to have those relationships as well in this industry to know that you can call somebody and be like, hey, I'm what's another way to explain this? What do you have? I have a student that I'm struggling to get to do this. What do you have?
Awesome.
Right? So it's pretty cool.
It's a pretty cool, close-knit community then that you have amongst
absolutely.
yourselves.
Yeah.
So that's awesome to see a little bit into that. So Lulu, to you, so working at TPC Stonebrae. So and you've had experience, like it sounds like you've been around that course like all your life.
Like a good chunk of time.
Yeah.
Sure.
So and now that you're going to officially work there and start. So what is kind of the role as an assistant pro that for anyone that just wants to know, what does your day-to-day look like then, like on the course?
So, it's pretty much like I think it's at the same time, it being a club, it's very service oriented. So
Sure,
definitely making sure the members have what they need. If they need anything in the service side where, day-to-day stuff, checking them in, making sure our staff outside, if they need anything, making sure they're on top of everything as well. That things flow smoothly on the golf course, pace of play, things like that. I think overall it's definitely supporting the head pro and kind of his ideals of what kind of a service he wants to provide and how he wants the golf course to be run. But a lot of it is just supporting role and
Sure.
Definitely, especially at the club where I'm lucky to have the experience of getting to do lessons and starting to kind of gain more clientele. It's kind of mitigating and managing, being able to do instruction and help support clinics and really make sure that that side of it is also really supported.
Got it. So I guess question either both of you weigh in. So I guess is the head pro, and now I'm from the corporate world, right? So break it down. Are you guys pretty much the CEOs of the course then? Like you making all the decisions, or like it sounds like you're supporting the vision of your head pro. So when I hear that, I'm thinking, maybe you're the manager, right?
Yeah.
That's the manager, or like how does the hierarchy work in terms of courses?
Depends on the course. Some courses will have a head pro and a director of golf.
Or a general manager.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So-
then the head pro's answering to that person. But then above that, you have a management company, and then
Yes.
everybody's answering to the
Oh.
management company.
Yeah.
I see.
Right?
So a lot of public courses are run have an overarching family of golf courses that they run.
Oh, so
that's
bigger
kind of-
company on top of the courses kind of thing. Okay.
So that's definitely more of a public course thing, but same thing in the private course community. So country clubs, there are also overarching companies
Okay.
that manage these country clubs as well. And so depending on, it's kind of whether it's member owned or it's company owned, club owned.
Comes
So
with
there's
different
two
little-
different things. Yeah.
I see.
And so it's mostly depending on, I think most courses do have a director or a general manager. So that's kind of the overarching leadership role. That's your CEO of
I
sorts
see.
for translating that. And so they're kind of managing more on the definitely on the business side of how the business is run. But then the head pro or director of golf usually runs golf operations as well
Okay.
as kind of supports the GM and what do we need budget wise or things like that. So
Oh man, yeah, because I just go to courses and I just play, and I just know that there is a head pro somewhere that sometimes
hiding in the office.
that's doing
Probably
something.
stuck in the
and
office
there's
doing
like
a
a
bunch of
starter,
paperwork.
and,
Pushing around paper.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I didn't really come to my mind that there's an overarching company that is running the number side of things. So
Yes.
that's cool to hear.
And things are much different. Like I said, way back in the day, your head pro owned the range. He owned the carts. He owned the pro shop, right?
Yeah.
Especially these municipals. That was the deal. Is the city took the green fees, and the head pro was able to take the pro shop, the range, the cart revenue, right? And
okay.
now it's just completely different because it just went over the years. It was you can pay the head pro X amount of dollars, and then the management company said, well, we can cut the salary by 80, let's say 20%. And we'll have the first assistant take that role, right? And then you just saved money. And then a couple of years went by, and they were like, well, we'll take that guy who was the first assistant, who's now the head pro, we'll cut his salary by 20%, and we'll have his first assistant do it. And it's gone like that down. So where, man, I sound old. 20 years ago, when you said you were the head pro, like
Okay.
it held such
Weight.
yes, it was
Really?
like, wow. And now you're like the head pro, you're like, oh, okay, cool. Right?
Yeah,
It doesn't
interesting
hold
difference.
that, yeah,
Interesting.
as much as it used to. It's still great because, and also the issue is, you have, the PGA of America, which has like 25,000 whatever assistant pros in your area, but there's 13 head pro jobs. Right? There's just not as many, like you have literally 1,000 people fighting over the same job. Right. So
Right, right,
so
right.
when you get it, you want to stick with it.
God. Okay. No. Yeah. It's awesome insight to hear about like how these courses run because I just enjoy playing on them. I haven't really considered working for one or anything. My family back in the day, we were part of a country club in Kingsburg, small city of like 11,000 people, right? And so, yeah, the head pro, we just ended up playing golf with them every few times and then just had fun. So I didn't really understand what that responsibility of that head pro was, but it's cool to hear, how it's kind of evolved and like all the economics behind it. I guess there's
Yeah.
tons of things you don't see, in the background in
Back
terms of
end.
that.
It's hard to make money as a golf course.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
unless you're like Pebble or something. But yeah, it's. I mean, until recently, it was really hard to make money as a golf. Golf courses
I think
shutting down.
pre-pandemic, it was definitely like, oh my gosh, we need to do something, and then pandemic hit, and we're like, oh shoot, we have too much of it.
Yeah, we have too many
like
golfers.
The demand is
yeah.
it definitely. I mean, the pandemic, I think, really did a huge just huge huge.
Well, partly
boost.
because why we have the golf garage too. It
Yeah,
helps in
and-
that. So I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
I'm as much as I dislike how hard it is to get a tee time in the Bay Area. I mean, I do see. I'm more bought into like this is way better than where it was before, where I could just sign up or I could just walk on a Saturday and play on a Saturday morning. So
Just so much more exposure to the game, so much more exposure to college golf, to people watching it on TV, to club sales, to instruction. It's pretty amazing, and again, golf is very community based as it is, right? And I try to, at least here, is like pair up people who want to play golf together. Like if you're just joining up, maybe you're just starting, it's very golf is a very intimidating game.
Oh,
right,
absolutely.
you got to go out, you
Yeah.
don't know what you're doing, you're shanking balls in the driving range. It gets to be able to be like, okay, we got you took a few lessons, you got to the point where you can hit the ball at least and get it down the fairway. Now let's match you up with a couple of people that you can go play golf with and go have a good time.
Yeah.
I see. Okay, cool. So I guess Lulu, to you, so is this your first assistant professional job
yes.
at TBC Stonebrae?
Yeah, so this is my first official assistant
Okay.
position.
So what was going into it? You probably had some idea, how everything was going to go, but anything that surprised you? Or were you like, I got this, I have experience working at golf courses and I'm good to go?
I feel like, funny enough, it's not super surprising. I think more so what I like about it, because before when I was there, I would work outside service. So, it's just different transitioning from there to being having a little bit more, I guess, more say.
Okay.
And more leadership. It's kind of you get more I don't want to say power.
Responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. Responsibility. I didn't want to say that. I was like, what's the word I'm looking for? That sounds proper. But yeah, more responsibility and also just more, I don't even want to say respect in that way. It's more of what I have to say does kind of impact a little bit more.
Right.
Because I am kind of okay, I'm the face of the golf shop, when I'm in there, and I'm also catering and creating an experience for a member if I'm doing a lesson or, and I want to me, I think that's kind of what I want my role to play as an assistant is I'm trying to make someone else's experience the best one possible.
Sure.
And give them, especially because it is a country club, it is private. So that's what they're coming for. They're coming for something unique. And whether that be the way that I structure my lessons, the way I give my lessons, the way that I carry myself in the shop, the way that I interact with people, I understand now that my role has a little bit more light shed on it as well.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think definitely coming into it, it is kind of what I expected. And also, to me, again, being around that, I worked outside service there for 5-6 years. So I got to know the various assistants and seeing their roles and what they do for us. And so, working in it for so long, I kind of understood what that role was what needed to be there. And so
Got it.
now
So
I carry that.
you're pretty well prepared, and so I feel like there's a lot of sense of pride in terms of now your role as like you're representing TBC, and you want to represent them in the best way to
For sure.
cater like a positive experience for your members. So that's cool, and sounds like that's awesome that you got this position. How recent? I forgot you mentioned.
Probably like a month ago.
Okay.
So it's been like a month. But again, that Stonebrae is like home for me. So
yeah.
It's
you're in around it, but
interesting
now it's like
to go
official.
back. Yeah, it's like an official.
And then one quick question. So you mentioned outside services, meaning like what you said you're doing that.
It's the fancy word for cart staff.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure it translated to listeners.
The kids we'd make run.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
I just say it like that, but it's essentially, yes, it's cart staff. So, and I think the interesting perspective is that, for years and probably very few other girls there.
Sure.
So,
I mean,
especially in my role and the real thing, my role right now, I'm probably the only girl in the golf department. And
wow.
And being around golf and working in golf now, like it is unfortunately what I've become accustomed to.
Yeah.
But at
sure.
the same time, I know that this kind of work is it's not, and this isn't like, I don't know, it's not to be like sexist or anything like that, but it's definitely not very appealing to women to work in the golf industry. And that's something we can like go in about too.
That could be a whole nother topic. We'll have to bring you back to talk about that.
I have so many things I could talk about.
Yeah. So, we appreciate you sharing, your experience there. Like I said, hit her up on all the social medias if you want to take lessons or learn about clubs or, just, you have great insight.
Yeah.
And I feel like, even with the previous podcast, you sharing your experiences, like, I love seeing like, women champion golf because and then like, I really like seeing, more diversity in our sport, which we could totally use. And so it's cool seeing you help in that way, contribute in that way. So I guess the last thing that I wanted to touch on is the PGA of America, or like PGA program and what you're going through. And then we can discuss a little bit more about PGA. So you are getting your PGA PGM role, or what is it? What's the name of it first off?
So it's PGA Professional Golf Management Program.
Okay,
Like,
so
that's what it is.
got it. So what does that mean?
The way that I equate it, or the way that I explain it, because of course there's like dozens of people who don't know what I say what it is.
Sure.
I say it's like the master's program for golf.
So getting like more advanced education specifically for the golf industry.
It pretty much equates to a business degree for golf. It's
Yeah.
going to
Okay.
teach you
Yeah.
how to run a golf course.
Got it.
from
And
top to
so
bottom.
you're currently in that program, right?
Yes.
And
So I'm at the qualifying level, which I have to. There's a couple steps to get into the program. Main steps being you do have to work in the golf industry. You take a playing ability test. It's called a PAT.
Sure.
Which
Okay.
I'm taking again soon. And so at that playing ability test, it's you shoot a certain score depending on the course rating, and they kind of set that up, and you sign up for it, and you pay a fee and the whole thing. And then there's a qualifying level where you kind of do basic general overview of the program, and you take a test, and then you pass, you're in. And so from there, you are really like an official part of the program.
Got it. And so like becoming a PGA member, it opens up other things that you can get access to, I'm assuming. And like, how long is the education part of it?
There's 3 levels. And so essentially they give you, because you're working in the golf industry, most people who are like in my role working as an assistant are also doing the program at the same time.
Sure.
And so especially when you're doing it full time, the span of time they give you to complete it is about, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, it's like 10 years. So
wow.
It seems really long, but at the same time, it's because you're working a full-time job and you're being like a quote-unquote full-time student. So it's just like balancing both. And yeah, I think definitely equates to like a business degree in golf.
Got it. Yeah, like you're getting your master's.
Yeah,
and working. Yeah.
Yep, I'm just doing it all at this point.
I see. Yeah, you play collegiate golf, you coach collegiate golf.
Yeah.
You're working at a golf course, and now you're taking your PGA and getting your PGM. And
I don't know what more I could do, honestly.
Yeah, you did it all. And so I guess Matt, you were part of what was your history then with the PGA? In terms of like the actual titles and stuff like that.
When I first started, they sent me my PGA stuff in a box, right? And it had VHS tapes
Oh,
in
wow.
it. So
Okay.
it was quite some time
Quite a
ago,
while ago,
right?
okay.
So it's kind of developed a little bit differently since I'd left. But I completed level 1, level 2, did all my work for level 3, and I had a disagreement with the PGA and I didn't complete. And that is a story for another time.
Sure.
You know, I fully support the PGA on some things I just don't agree with. And it used, once again, I'm going to say it like it was before. It used to hold this super high prestige if you weren't PGA, then, but now there's a lot of instructors out there that are not. There's a lot of head professionals out there that are not.
So
right.
So like, do you have to like maintain PGA?
Yes,
Like
it is
you have to take a
it
test
is
or
well,
something.
it's
or?
more of a membership. You gotta
Pay a
pay.
fee.
Ah.
Yeah.
You have to pay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you gotta
And
pay.
I'm a spice there, so I can have any opinion I want. So I'm like raising my
No,
eyebrows,
yeah.
like, huh?
Yeah.
You know?
So it's good. I mean, it's good for the game. You know, they've changed the way that they did things, and I'm not sure how it is now. But back when I did it, unless you passed the PAT, you couldn't do anything else.
Wow.
Right, and then I
Interesting.
think they opened it up because they weren't getting enough people to
do it,
join.
Sure.
Right, because it's a bit. It don't get like they're great for the game, but bottom line, they're business.
Oh yeah.
Bottom line,
Golf
they're
is
business, right?
PGA's business.
So they got to
Yeah.
do what they got to do.
Yeah.
So they opened it up and said, okay, well, you can do your book work, and as long as you pass a PAT,
So you get a
before
conditional. So
yeah,
that's what it's called.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
if you
So-
shoot, the conditional works like if you shoot one, because you play 36 holes in a day, or they used to split up into 2 days, but they kind of consolidated into 1 day now. And so you play 36 holes, you have to shoot a certain score depending on the rating. But if you shoot one round within like 83 or 84, I think like you get a conditional pass. So again, you can start the coursework for the qualifying level, but you can't be officially like level 1 until you've passed
Until
the
you-
PAT then.
Interesting,
So,
okay.
Yeah. So it's a little bit more like, okay, you can start the program, like you're kind of in.
You
but
can
like,
send us the check.
yeah, but like, just pay for the program already so that you're in it.
I
Yeah.
see.
So-
Okay. So yeah, I mean, so like in terms of just the materials, is it like normal coursework then? Like they give you a binder of all this stuff and you gotta like read up and take a test
So
and
now it's
stuff,
all
or-
online.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was like, wow, they still get a binder.
Oh,
Like, we
okay.
had-
So it's all
yeah,
online
we
material.
had
Okay.
binders,
so,
and it
so
was
they made
crazy.
it into like a Canvas course. So it is basically like school.
But
Yeah.
not live instruction. It's
Not
all like
live,
watching
it's
videos.
all reading. They have a
Oof,
they have
I
a
would
yeah,
struggle
it's
so
not
much
it's not the
with
best,
that.
but
Yeah.
you know, it's kind of especially since I'm only at the qualifying level, you know, I think as it gets higher you start watching PowerPoints and live instruction, but for the most part right now it's just general reading and getting through the program.
Got it. Getting familiar with the materials and the wording and all the
and the work and just like what
information.
is the PGA and some of the history.
Got
So-
it. Okay. Yeah, like a whole that's something I've always like saw from outside. Oh yeah, this person's a PGA professional, but I didn't really understand
Like,
what
that mean?
what does that mean?
Yeah.
So it sounds like there's also not only what you're going through, but there's a bunch of different subcategories that's just not PGM, right? There's like, is there other things that you can also do, I guess, in the PGA, or is it, just PGM?
I think I think they've since added something for instruction that's additional. I'm not sure. I was talking to
Okay.
somebody about that, but I think that's my biggest thing with people who are thinking about getting into the PGA is understanding of if your role is wanting to work at a golf course or be a director of golf or be a head professional, then that's your role to take. It's going to help you open doors because some people just won't hire you unless you
you're
are
PGA.
PGA.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Right.
Okay.
But if your role is instruction, maybe if you want,
Yeah.
right? But it's not really, they're not, its basis isn't to make coaches, it's to make people who can run.
Managers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's exactly it.
That's
They're not
literally
they're
it.
not making coaches, they're making
I see.
managers.
Yeah, it's a
I see.
management program.
Yeah.
At the forefront.
Got
of
it.
So
Got
it's not
it.
an instructional like. So I think like I'm kind of with Matt on this as especially because I'm starting and also I've gotten a lot of insight and perspective and I've done a lot of reading and thinking about like what exactly am I, for example, why am I in the PGM program? Like, what am I doing it for? To me, it's definitely learning the run around the business. I definitely want to understand that. And same thing, it does kind of keep doors open for me in doing, right, like, oh, it's kind of, I think of the equivalent, it's like people having like MD on the back of their name, or like like a
Lulu,
yeah, like MD
PGA.
or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
that's like the equivalent. It just gives you that extra like credibility.
Sure.
But I definitely agree. I don't think it's a necessity, especially now that I've like dived more into the instructional side of just golf. It's like, I realize like there's tons of like there's a lot of I think there's a ton of teachers, instructors in the top 50 like in golf, not PGA. And like and that's like something unique that you can even look at is like how many who are in PGA and how many are not. And does the PGA necessarily make you a better instructor? I think the real opinion is no.
Okay.
Because again, it's a different experience. Now, whether it's like I do have a PGA at the end of my name and I'm a good instructor, then I'll leave that up to my clients for sure. But like I am definitely pushing more on the instructional side than the management side.
Interesting. Okay, so maybe you'll use that as like, hey, I'm a PGA, but like, as soon as you build your client base, it's not something that you necessarily just maintain to be successful.
Let's be honest, being a coach is much more lucrative than being like in the business itself of like I'm working day-to-day operations.
Got it.
It's completely different.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so yeah, I mean, this is great insight. Learning from you guys who have taken so many positions in the golf industry, because I like read, I'm a part of some forums and stuff, and I read all the time. It's like everyone's like, oh, I want to like work in the golf industry, and I hope people who listen to this kind of get some insight to what that really entails. So I guess for the last question then, any advice to someone who would randomly just want to say, who thinks, oh yeah, I just want to work in some golf in some capacity? You have any general advice? And Lulu, you go first.
It's more than 40 hours a week, I'll tell you that. Depending on what position you're going for, and kind of like it does kind of go back to like why it doesn't necessarily appeal to a lot of women to work in the golf industry. It's long hours for sure, and I think unless you're willing to sacrifice that time, and you're at the golf course like 24/7. You're outside, you're inside, like. Some days are slower, like, you're kind of lounging, but then there's other days where it's, especially now with it being so busy. I mean, courses are just packed, like back to back to back tee times. So you're not really getting a break. And, on the instructional side, like the back to back to back lessons, like I can't eat sometimes. And like, I faced that before. But at the same time, like I really do have a passion for golf more so, definitely like the service part. I'm definitely a very like service oriented person now. I realize that. And it does sacrifice a lot of my time, but I don't think, to me, it's like I enjoy it so much.
Okay.
Whether it be, I'm not playing as much these days, unfortunately, but at the same time when I'm working with people, making sure people have a good experience at the course, or just talking about golf, or again, giving lessons is like my biggest thing. I've come to love that so much. I think I'm in a space where, to me, I know that's where I want to be, and so I'm willing to make those sacrifices of time and energy, and it does take a lot. So it's not just if you want those perks of everybody kind of is like, oh, you can play at the golf course for free, and like like you can do that, like it's you can, I think, if you want to work like cart staff to see what it's like that's the most available job. Not everybody wants to do that, but if you want a taste of it, I think that's where you would start. And it's not the cleanest job, I'll tell you that, but at the same time, it's like it does get you like just into the slight entry of like the golf.
You can see a little, you could peek into the
exactly, and then you can decide like, is this really worth it? Like for me,
So it sounds like people who think, oh, I want to work in golf, I'm going to play a lot of golf, that's already the wrong expectation. So Matt, any advice for people who want to like work in golf? Like,
well, I mean, if you just want to work at the golf course for free golf, you can take these courses that'll go out and be a marshal, work in the golf shop and ring people in a couple of days a week. But if you want to work in the golf business, what do you want to do it for? Depending on, do you want to run the course or do you want to be a coach, right? There's kind of two different avenues. Sometimes you can do both. There's great, Snopkowski's one, like John Snopkowski, that guy's the man, right? But he's busy 60 plus hours a week, right? I just say know your craft, do your research, right? Know especially if you're wanting to be a coach, is go out and shadow people, do as much reading, different, know not just your system, know as many systems as you possibly can, so you can understand what somebody else's theory of swinging a golf club is versus yours, right? And like I said, there's 18 different ways you can swing a golf club, right?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
just what is gonna, and then know what'll work better for, don't be a cookie cutter guy as well. Don't like shove my theory on somebody who it may not fit their body type, right? You just got to do what's best for them. But once you do it, to me, the coaching, once you see somebody hit that shot, you see that look on their face, it's just so cool. It's just so cool. You're high five and you're jumping up. Like, it's just, you share that experience with them.
Awesome.
It's addicting.
Awesome. All right. So hope you guys enjoyed that one. Hope you guys, took something away, what it's like to work in multiple positions in the golf industry and what the PGA is like. So yeah, keep chasing, and we'll see you guys in the next one.